Well, this is it. We come to this spot, and this is my obviously my video. I thought, well, how would I write this out? And I've written so many emails, and I think people obviously they've read plenty of my words, but I really felt like it was time to just kind of. It really felt led that I could put something into video and just offer it as my sort of my closing moments. And I'm always looking for sort of the significance and seeing the significance of a step, and kind of a neat step here, and yet really hard and personally difficult to take this step, and going through this whole process, especially with all of the emotion and drama and theater, and the accusations, and also the exposure of all of my personal failures, and having that all sort of played out on the worldwide stage, and not really being able to feel like there was an adequate way to speak in regards to the underlying allegations and the things that happened. And there's a lot of that's there that will never really be adequately explained, or have the opportunity to be able to walk through and explain. I can just tell you I've done literally hundreds of hours of media time, and they'll cut it down to 12-second sound bites and to fit their narrative, and that has happened over and over and over again. So I really want to just take this moment. I really want to thank the people who have supported me, first and foremost my wife and my family, I can't the steps that we've taken in working through and working with counselors and people that have come around us, and the absolute outpouring of support that has happened has been tremendous, and we really can't thank you enough. And we appreciate your prayers, your words of encouragement, your really just everything that has happened in regards to the help and safety and protection that people have showered us with. We are enormously enormously grateful for that, and it has meant the world to us. I also want to thank my pastor, Pastor Dan, and in his just his sense and his spirit and what he has brought in regards to each one of these steps. And a special friend of mine who came on the scene has been with me virtually every moment in the middle of the night, and the difficulties that happen through the personal scourging that happened through the media, and Pastor Petty. And he's been a tremendous help, and has just a real spirit and heart for marriages, and has actually played and been willing to walk out the steps, and has been off camera on several of the interviews that I've been involved in. So we're very thankful. We're moving forward as a family. I'm very thankful for the healing that God has brought as we're walking forward. And there's a long road there, and the issues that we're dealing with have been with us for a long time. My wife and my story, ours together, we are going to have that now, is going to be brought forward and aired on a special edition of 2020. And there's a lot more to the story that hasn't been told, or that people haven't heard. And we really feel like that there are millions of families that are out there that really are suffering from the same sorts of things that were happening in the background, that still have not been really brought forward, that even through this scandal, because nobody really wanted to touch on those issues at all. So my wife's television debut will be on 2020, as we sit down on the couch with them, and she's as healthy, really, in all honesty, she's as healthy as she's ever been. She's walking forward, and it's been an amazing step. And so you wouldn't think in all of this, in the middle of this, that there would be any sort of renewal and redemption. But God is he's amazing. He's willing to love us and forgive us and bring restoration and renewal and redemption. And we're walking through that. Not to say that we're all the way there, but we are continuing to try and work through our struggles together, and making sure that we're walking those pieces out with good godly counsel, and just those people that love us. And obviously the attacks, and the personal attacks, and the attacks that she's faced from people, there's some very evil and demonic people out there, and myself included. I can see the attacks on me, but on my wife, I really didn't understand what that was about. But that obviously we just have to forgive and try to move forward, and in our own lives. But really, the healing is happening. It's happening in me and my soul, and the hardness of my heart and the difficulties there. It's happening in my wife as we walk forward, and my children have great kids. My children are fantastic, and my daughter Chloe, who's going to be 16 here in a little bit, and my son Elijah, who of course is 13, and Aiden, who's 11, and then Ira, the youngest one, who's 9, and they are. It's been fantastic to have them and to be their dad. It's very humbling to be their dad, but it's also been quite a challenge with all this happening around us. And they're doing well, and we're very thankful for the prayers that have covered them, and just tremendous children. And they, of course, have been with us for their whole lives. So this has been quite a shock, and yet they are incredibly mature and understanding, and God has filled them with an outpouring of His Holy Spirit in ways that I at 15 or 13 or 11 or 9 I just wasn't even acquainted with the closeness of God that they have, and I learn every day from them, and so we're very thankful for that. But when I went to Lansing, and I'll just have to say, when I went to Lansing, there was all this anticipation and really sort of this the heaviness of knowing that I was going there and that I was going to face the political corruption of the the best and worst of Lansing, and knowing that in reality the party itself that I run under is a Republican Party, but is a very progressive party that wants to grow government and continue to do so, and the leadership continues to push forward. And I made commitments when I ran, and I said, I'm not going to vote for a spending increase. I'm not going to vote for a tax increase. I'm going to stand for life and life at conception, and I'm going to stand for the Second Amendment, and I'm going to stand against crony capitalism. I am going to do it. And even if my own party doesn't want those things put forward and doesn't want me to stand for those things, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to stay there. It's very difficult to do, and they'll let you know right off the bat that you either work for us or we're going to grind you into the ground. And I had to make that, and it was a wrestling decision. I could have just rode that seat and played the part out in public and said I was standing for conservatism and staying that part, and I was going to be the guy that stood there, but in the background cut a deal and really spend 6 years or even however long in that seat for many years. I could have done it and really gotten rich doing it. It's a pretty safe system if you'll play the game that they have for you, but I didn't. And so right off the bat, of course, they ask you to break the law on the first day, of course, to lie to the public and say, that, hey, this is all sort of a background agreement. And then a few days later, of course, they ask you to sign an agreement that says, that you will give your vote to the speaker on the tough issues, that you'll give it to the speaker in regards to taxes and spending and those hard issues. You'll give it to the speaker, and you'll do it secretly. And so that's going against really in my spirit, and it went against me. I couldn't do it. There was, I had to just continue to push forward and make sure that my voting was as well done as it could be under the circumstances. And there's only a couple of those that I would want back, and they're probably largely semantical at this point as far as votes. But it was a tremendous effort. I tried to keep the public informed, posting my votes and posting the reasoning on my votes, and you can see my vote journal, which is still on my website, and also trying to let people know what their government was doing to them. When you're looking at the idea of ever-growing government, and you're looking at leadership that is just continuing to press forward with more spending. We had the biggest budget in state history, and yet they couldn't find money for the roads. There's money for the roads. They're just spending it on things that are not constitutional. There's no basis under the Constitution for them, and yet they continue to do it while they're begging for money for roads. Well, they didn't need money for roads. What they needed money for was to fill a Medicaid hole that they had, because they had added 600,000 new people to Medicaid. And they didn't have the money for it, and they don't have the money for it. And so when I went to Lansing, one of the first bills I put forward was the MEDC bill to end it. And of course, that was met with just absolute outpouring and scourging of hostility and irritations from the party leadership, because the idea is the MEDC is crony capitalism at its worst. It's really corporate welfare. It's giving away of money to politically connected people and corporations, and it really needs to end. There's something egregious about the idea of crony capitalism. I put forward that bill, and we knew at that point, from step after step after step, that in reality that I was running and going to be this continuous tug of war between the leadership. But we have to have people who are willing to step into that gap and stand. We have to have people who are willing to go through that fire and be willing to stand there and to continue to vote the right way, or else it isn't going to change. So I did that. I continued to do it, continued to press forward, bringing and co-sponsoring Life at Conception and co-sponsoring the constitutional carry bill, sponsoring the end to handgun registrations, putting forward in supporting, working on a dismemberment legislation, an end to the sale of body parts, working on the idea of many more pieces of life legislation, pressing really hard in making sure that we were putting forward legislation that really was some of the leading in the nation. And to do that, so there was a lot of hours, tremendous amount of time to find and really carve out and put together the best pieces of legislation that we could to amass really the sponsorships that made sense. And we did that, and we put a lot of pressure on the leadership. Obviously, they undermined many of those things and sent those to committees to die, because if you don't play along and you don't go along and play the part of the theater of democracy for them and really take on the role that they give for you, then what they'll do is, of course, they kill your bills, they kill your committee assignments, they of course they of course will cut off your ability to raise funds from lobbyists, and essentially they'll run you into the ground. And they did those things and continue to do those things. That was sort of the way that they were operating. I myself was trying to push forward and make sure that I brought forward and I continued to stand as best I could under the circumstances that we had. That's what people sent me there to do, regardless of what the personal cost would be at the end. And of course I did it and continued to do it. In regards to the underlying allegations, I can just answer that. There's a lot of things I couldn't say. One, because they're just far too personal. Some of that's going to come out on 2020. And of course, it was between myself and my wife and working through those details that go back many years before any of this. And that will be brought forward, and we're going through the healing steps and continuing to work through those steps, both together and separately. But also in regards to the extortion plot, where people said that I made it up, and of course I then worked with police, and they immediately determined that I was not making it up, and that indeed I was the victim of that. And it's hard to even say that I'm a victim, but I believe the extortion plot will once it's revealed, because now there's a police report and it's with the prosecutor, and they know who the person is, they know who the principal is, and they know how they were getting the information. And people don't understand with extortion, one of the things they don't understand is that they say, well, these people were just bringing out the evidence of the truth. Well, that's not really true. They could have done that at any time. What they were trying to do is use the information to force two sitting state representatives to resign. It just so happened that they were the most conservative state representatives that were sitting in the House, and among the most conservative to ever sit in the State House. And so you have to call into question how that worked. And in regards to the allegations from the staffers, what we have to look at in regards to the allegations with the staffers, and I would just ask you to think about, pray about all this as you go Tuesday. Pray about it, consider it. You'll know in your spirit really where you're supposed to be in regards to your vote, and I know that you'll make the right decision. We've been here, and I have a great many supporters and so many wonderful people out there. I know that you folks are able to sense and discern what's a political hit, what really was going on in the background, and I assume that you'll do that, and you'll take those steps, and you'll have to decide what's the best representation for this district and what kind of representative do you want in Lansing. If you want somebody that's a politician that's going to play along and play the games and go in that direction, then don't vote for me. Really, there are several other people out there that will be good. They'll be good political hacks who will go there and toe the party line and come back and tell you how terrible Lansing is and how they're standing against it. They'll do it. Vote for one of them. If you want somebody that's going to go down there who's going to continue to vote in a very, very conservative way and is going to force those issues into the open, and I might do it a little differently the next time around, of course, to not. I think you can stand against people without being so personally difficult. I think I can do some of that, and I think that I have learned some of that. I think it's absolutely those are steps that should happen. And every Christian, every person should walk through and evaluate from what they've learned and take steps to say, how would you do it differently? And I think there are some things that certainly would be different as you're walking forward. But some allegations were made by staffers, and those allegations were never proven. Those men never came forward and testified. They were never put under oath. They never were cross-examined. Their allegations, there was no proof of stolen funds, no proof of fraud, no proof of the idea of forgeries. There was no missing money that was put forward. What happened was, of course, they made these allegations. They were working secretly with the House leadership, and so you have to question what was the motivation. And I would just ask you to look at that and think about that. Some of that will be revealed, I think, as we go forward. And, I think that's why it's important that the report come out. So the prosecutor, he can come forward right now. I hope it's not for political reasons that he's not, but he can come forward right now. He certainly can clear me, and he can say who the principal is, and he can say whether or not the extortion plot is in any way connected, with some sort of political corruption, and how that's connected, and if so, what does that look like? So it's absolutely vital, I think, that information comes out. I think that people need to understand really how, in the background, the sorts of pressures that are applied to their state officials, and then people can make the determination and understand, was the effort that was given in their regard, was that an effort that they would like to have back again? Obviously, I'm going to continue to press forward for liberty and freedom. It's absolutely vital that we have people who are willing to sacrifice and step forward and pay the personal cost that needs to be paid, so that we can pass down freedom to our children and grandchildren. And we need people who will step forward and do that, not just say it and go there and be willing to stand with the party and to be silent when the party goes to the liberal left, but people who will call that out. Our job is not to sit there and press buttons. Our job is to make sure that we represent you well. And my job, I took that very, very personally, that, my job was to be there and to be your advocate against your government, and to let you know what your government was doing to you, and to make sure that I held them accountable, that I didn't work for them, I worked for you. And I really held that in my heart as something that was absolutely vital, that was the case. And you can see and you can determine. I would ask you to look at the votes, look at the sponsorships, look at the efforts. It really was second to none. And you can look back at former reps from all over the state and take a look at the efforts that I put forward, and I think you'll be impressed as you do. But just know this, I certainly wouldn't go back as a politician. My effort would be to continue to stand for liberty and freedom, and to continue as best I could under the personal energy that I have, and of course balancing that with family, which I didn't do a very good job with, but to balance that with family, to make sure that I'm standing for the right things, for the constituents of the county and for the people of the state of Michigan. So again, I guess I'll just say thank you so much. It has been an honor. It has been an absolute privilege. It has been an incredibly both humbling and difficult experience to walk through for myself and my family, and I know for the district. And I really am sorry for the trouble and difficulty that I've put so many people through in all of this. And I don't really have the words to I would just say God bless you all, and thank you, really, sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your love and your support and your tenderness, and those people who have been that way have been the bulwark against the evil and demonic folks who have done everything they can to just continue to try and tear at me and my family. So again, thank you. God bless you. Look forward to how Tuesday night goes. I'm very hopeful and encouraged, and I'm looking forward to wherever this chapter is going to go from here. So thank you very much. Okay, God bless you. Bye-bye.